interruption rang with self-satisfaction. "But I don't think you are," Burton pressed on while he had the chance. "I've got a feeling there's something fishy about this case, and I'm not going to take any chances. Better be safe than sorry, that's my motto. I don't want to be caught like old George Turner was."
"Why? What happened to him?"
The Assistant Commissioner was a great one for a bit of police gossip. "In all the 20 years he sat in this chair before me, they only had one murder in the county. Woman battered to death with an axe, blood and brains all over the kitchen floor, you know the sort of thing. Well, George turned the local boys loose on it, and you've never seen such a cock-up in all your life. They ended up by arresting the vicar's son on such rubbishy evidence that the public prosecutor wouldn't even let him bring the case before the magistrates. All the yokels were laughing themselves silly because everybody knew who'd done it except the poor old cops. The chap got off scot-free and poor old George Turner never lived it down. They never let him forget it, I can tell you. Well, they're not going to get me tied hand and foot like that."
"No, no, of course not,"
the Assistant Commissioner chimed in with evident sympathy.
"Watch committees can be devils, I couldn't agree more. You've got to be top dog or they'll lead you a dog's life."
There was a pause while both men pondered over the infelicity of this metaphor. "Well, you see, don't you?" Mr. Bartlett went on. "If my sixth sense is right, and this girl hasn't just slipped off for a bit of slap and tickle with somebody else's husband, it might be a very nasty case. Very nasty indeed."
"Murder, you mean?"
"Or kidnapping."
"Kidnapping? Now, steady on, old man. You've been seeing too much telly. We don't have kidnapping in this country. Place is much too small. Besides, it's not English."
"There's always a first time," said Mr. Bartlett darkly. "And it'd just be my bloody luck to get clobbered with it."
"Well, what have you done so far?"
"The local bobby's scratched around a bit. Like everybody else, he thought she'd be turning up again right as rain. While reporting it to HQ, I don't think he's done much. There's an outbreak of foul pest or swine fever or something, and naturally that's far more up his street than one of these vanishing lady larks."
"I suppose you've circulated the usual description?"
"Yes, we did that right away."
Not that it helps much. One young girl looks pretty much like another these days."
"Not this one. She stands 5'3" in stiletto heels, and she turns the scales at nearly 16 stone.
"My God!"
said the Assistant Commissioner, duly impressed at last. "And she's got bright ginger hair. It makes a difference, doesn't it?"
"It does indeed, old man."
"Yes. Dead or alive, she's going to be difficult to hide. Now do you see why I want some help? 16 stone of bouncing British girlhood can't just disappear into thin air, can it?"
"No, indeed it can't, old chap. Once seen, never forgotten by the sound of it." "Yes, I'm inclined to agree with you. You should have got a line by now if she's still kicking around."
"Then can you let me have somebody right away? Somebody good, mind. I don't want one of your old deadbeats."
"There are no deadbeats on my staff, old man."
The Assistant Commissioner spoke with heavy reproof, but the expression had given him an idea. He still wasn't convinced that this was a case for the Yard, but he didn't want to turn down a chap who was understandably being a bit wary in his new job. And anyhow, Bartlett might just conceivably turn out to be right. Murder would be bad enough, but kidnapping, from the professional point of view, could be terrible. At least in the case of murder, you couldn't blame the dead body on the police. But in kidnapping, whatever you did might be wrong. If you let them hand over the ransom money, the kidnappers might still kill their victim, and if you stopped the ransom money, you were equally likely to be left with a corpse on your hands. The Assistant Commissioner shuddered gently as he thought of all the messes you could get into in a kidnapping case. It wasn't the sort of job you'd wish on a dog. He turned back to the telephone. There was only one man for the job.
"I'll send you one of my chief inspectors," he said. "Good chap. Name's Dover. I'll get him down to you first thing in the morning."
The Assistant Commissioner dropped the receiver back in place and grinned wickedly. A man in his exalted position shouldn't indulge in petty spite where his subordinates were concerned, but it was oh so pleasant to give way to these little human frailties once in a while.
"I'd love to see the old bugger's face when he hears what he's got himself landed with this time."
The Assistant Commissioner chuckled happily to himself and picked up his phone again to send the good news down the line.
"Bloody waste of time,"
snarled Chief Inspector Wilfred Dover as he sat slumped and sulky in the corner of his first-class reserved compartment. His sergeant, sitting opposite him, sighed with resignation. He'd had nearly 4 hours of this, and whatever sympathy he'd had at the beginning had now worn very thin. "Yes, sir," he said, and gazed hopelessly out of the window.
"I don't know why it is,"
Dover grumbled remorselessly on.
"It always seems to be me that gets landed."